So hi, welcome to my podcast. I'm Shane.
I'm Glory.
And we're here with
Brian from Currents.
I asked them some questions to say about their upcoming album, The Death We Seek. And so congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Feels great.
Fuck yeah. Dude.
Hell yeah.
I don't mean to fanboy too hard, but I am a huge fan of your band, you know. Got me through a lot of shit, all that fun shit. The album's fucking awesome. I'm
thanks, bro.
I'm blown away by track 2, which I actually have the track list up here. Living in Tragedy.
It's a good one.
Yeah, I don't think you guys have ever gotten that heavy. Shit was crazy.
Yeah, it's a little nuts.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
But that like 3-track run of Living in Tragedy, Unfamiliar, and So Alone, so fucking good. So fucking good.
Oh yeah, thank you.
Hell yeah. And I'm amped for the fucking tour. I'm amped about everything. I'm amped we're here. I'm excited today. Let's go.
Yeah, it's a good day.
Yeah.
Good day to be alive, you know?
Hell yeah.
Yeah, album's incredible. As a new fan, blew me away.
Thank you.
Every track, fucking crazy, hit after hit. Fantastic album.
Hell yeah, it's sick.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. So is there any meaning behind the album title or cover art?
So the cover art is supposed to basically follow this theme that we've had going for like the previous cover arts. It's definitely a little further in the future, and it doesn't look like things really went so well, you know. It's looking pretty apocalyptic. Oh my god, man. But yeah, so yeah, it's kind of in line with where everything has been going and where it's at now. The title, The Death We Seek, we thought about a bunch of different titles, and we had that line from that song, and we didn't really think initially that it was going to be the album title, but compared to every other idea that we had, it was the best one. And I think it was just one of those things where it just seemed to fit everything so well. It seemed to fit the theme of the band, previous works, and all that stuff. So it just seemed like a no-brainer.
Hell yeah. Can you spill some of those other ideas, or are you holding on to them for the future?
I can't even remember, to be honest. I like nothing. It was like, yeah, I think they were all like really bad. So like, not even like funny bad, but like just not memorable bad. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fair enough.
I could dig through my notes, see if I could find them, but it'd take a minute.
That's all right. So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
So as with what we usually do, we'll have like a pile of songs that we'll go to a producer with after like a little while. When it's about that time to like start getting things together and get ready for the next release, we will take whatever we've had from the last year, 2 years or so since the previous record that we had put out, and kind of just go from there and tinker and make things as perfect as they can be. And then once we get to that final like kind of stage where it's like, okay, this is potentially going to be something that everyone's going to hear, so let's make it as good as it could possibly be. We're taking the best of the ideas that we have, we'll throw everything at the wall, you know, like we'll every little like demo, every little like, you know, whether it's like a little part or a full song or whatever, like we'll kind of like throw it all out there and see what's worth moving on with and what's worth, you know, chasing and messing with and perfecting. And yeah, this was no different. Like The Death We Seek and Remember Me specifically were like kind of like some older tracks that were written like around right after The Way It Ends came out. So it was like that summer that those songs kind of came together, and then that kind of gives you an idea of like from there and then on until December of 2021, or December 2021 it would have been that we started recording for The Death We Seek.
God damn.
So
like obviously this album was different in the sense of like you really couldn't go anywhere, so you guys were going to write no matter what because that's just the only thing that you could do. But like in general, when we're talking about your writing process for previous albums, are you guys always kind of in that writing mode? Because it sounded like you guys bring all your ideas to the table and whittle it down from there, and you don't like get into a writing mode for a record necessarily.
It depends, because we'll have like the dry spells. Like right now, in this, usually the process for making new stuff will kind of commence once the current record is out. Mm-hmm. So like just if I was going to guess, I would imagine that once the Death We Seek is out and we get some of that response and we're kind of hot on the heels of like that the attention and like the criticisms, so to speak, that's kind of when we start getting right on it, and just kind of working from there. So like if we keep that same kind of rhythm, I would imagine we'll probably be getting back into that mode pretty soon, and then from that point it will like we'll see what happens.
Okay, makes sense.
Wow, that's crazy to hear, because a lot of bands that we talk to usually say like they're always writing, and like by the time the album that is about to release is about to go out, they're already done with like the second record, so they're already sick of that one. They're like, can we just get that over with so we can get the next one out? But you guys kind of just go full stop, wait to see the response, and then kind of go off that energy. That's crazy.
Well, this is, I think, a particularly long period of time between when the record was actually recorded and then when it's out. So this is one of those situations where, it's like I'll talk to like other band guys or like just like friends and stuff, and I forget who said it to me, but it was like oh yeah, like we recorded it December of like last year, and this guy's just like, oh, so you already hate it. I'm like, well, not really, but like I totally get where he's coming from, but I feel like to get to that like hatred level, you have to be like too close to it for a long time. And as you are really close to it when you're like writing it and you're recording it and you're listening to mixes for hours and days and all that stuff, but we're kind of far removed from that now, where we can kind of look at it way more objectively. And I'm not sick of it, and I think that when everybody hears these things, whether you're sick of it or not, it reinvigorates like what you liked about it in the beginning, hearing other people's perspective of hearing it for the first time. So I don't know, not sick of it yet, still about it, and still really excited to play some of these songs live, especially that we haven't gotten to yet,
yeah. So when we're talking about like this reinvigorating, when the album is finally out, like when we're talking about the big songs, and of course every artist, when you play live, you've got to play your song. Like, is that kind of what keeps that interesting for you guys, is like the new fans getting to hear that song for the first time, and like so that you're not getting tired of it? Because like obviously you've had to have played those songs hundreds and hundreds of times.
Yeah, and we're kind of fortunate in that respect, where like people yell at us if like this song or that song's not in the set, but for the most part we don't really like if we have a song we played a bajillion times and we pull it out of the set for like a couple tours, you don't really miss it, in the sense of like that song will probably come back, and people usually understand that, like especially in our position, like for the longest time we've been a support band. We go out with like bigger bands and play our music in front of people for, I don't know, 25, 30, 40 minutes, if that, you know what I mean? And you can't fit your entire discography in that time. It just doesn't work. So like it's nice to be able to pull things out and give them a little space and make them special again. And then when it's time, you put them back in there. But people seem to be pretty receptive to that. And I think for the most part, when new stuff comes out, like the interest is still there. So like when a new song comes out, people are excited to hear it. And we're excited to like get out there and like, express that and like live in those feelings and live in that moment. And kind of learn the songs and get them to be as fine tuned as like the older stuff,
Absolutely.
100%. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
I don't know. It's funny. We're talking about being kind of removed from the stuff, so it's hard to remember the process a little bit. As far as, because this one was just really easy as far as it goes, like compared to other records that we've put together. Like this was probably like the smoothest, like chillest, like okay, like this all feels really good kind of album. But if I had to think about a song that was like, there was a couple that didn't necessarily make the record that I think were a little bit more punishing. That they're still good songs, mind you, and I think that they just they have to get either revisited and try to get them up to where they needed to be, or just release them in like a less serious fashion, I guess. But I would say it's some of the songs that didn't make it that were like the real punishing ones. And it's like if you were really trying to force it that hard, then like it's probably not really going to translate in like a natural way to begin with. It's really the stuff that kind of just came natural, and that's the stuff that's always resonates the best in our minds, or at least in my opinion. Like Monsters, that was like this is about the way it ends, you know what I mean? But like when we did Monsters, that was like the smoothest, easiest, like didn't really have a lot to like edit. And when we did, like those edits came pretty naturally because it was just like such a good base for a song in my mind. So like and then obviously that song resonated more than like a lot of other stuff that we worked a lot harder on, you know, to get it up to where it had to be. So I guess if I had to think of one that maybe was a little more punishing for The Death We Seek, it would be title track, The Death We Seek. Like we spent a long time trying to get that chorus right. And I, you know, like the verses and all that stuff, that was all pretty easy as far as it goes. Like there wasn't, like I wrote it, it was the same way for like a year plus. And then when we got to the studio, nothing really changed all that much as far as all that, like the meat of the song goes, like the verses. But that chorus, we had like, I don't know, like 5, 6, 7 different ideas, and just nothing, absolutely nothing made sense or worked. And then I think we just went with like the base of like the first idea that we had, and went from there. And that's what it ended up being.
Okay. So like you said, like you guys are very much go with the flow. If it's not making sense, scrap it, kind of move on to the next thing. So like with a song like Death We Seek, what was kind of the factor for you guys that was like, we have to keep pushing on this song?
It was my personal favorite in a sense. I had a very like Chris, so that song, Chris just dropped a video today of him playing a little part of it. He was saying it was basically a pre-production in pre-pro phase. When he started writing it, he used like it was like a program guitar that, you know, like he programs drums and stuff for tracks all the time, but there's this thing called Odin where you take like a guitar, it's like samples, and you can like add tones to it and then just do it like on a grid, like you would with like programmed drums. So the original pre-production was literally like fake guitar that sounded real, you know? And I don't know, it was just such a good song in the sense of like, it was just like heavy, but also sounded like us. And it had like its little moments here and there of like the technicality, but I just liked that it was like a little more like cathartic and like in your face. And I think the lyrics came across like super well, where like I think they were like some of the strongest that I had up to that point. And so it was like, I was like, I'm not letting all of that be for nothing in a sense. Like I knew that song was special, and I haven't felt that way about a song since probably like Into Despair or like Monsters, where I just knew that it was going to be like a big deal in a sense. And yeah, so we kind of just, I was like, yeah, chorus might be like a pain to try to get right, but I know that the rest of the song is so good that we should just keep going.
Fair enough.
Okay.
And
go ahead. Oh, damn. No. Do you want to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. So you mentioned that there were actually a couple tracks that didn't actually make the album, and those were very difficult to actually get through and finish. And then you said you followed that up with, but usually when we work too hard on tracks, like they don't make the album because they don't feel authentic, they feel overdone, stuff like that. So what's so different about those tracks? Because you said that you still wanted to put them on a separate project or just release them still in the future, versus just kind of overall scrapping it because it feels inauthentic.
Because the song itself, like Chris is such a fantastic composer where nothing he makes is bad. Like I've never heard him do, like, unless he's like, yeah, I put that in as like a joke, or I copy pasted this thing, you know what I mean? Like and you can tell that stuff where I'm like, this part I feel like could be better, and he's like, oh yeah, 100%, you know what I mean? Like he's very self-aware in that sense, but he's just so talented that like everything is so good, and it's like to let those pieces of work go to waste is just a shame, just because I can't come up with something to put over it. So it's just one of those things where if we have to kind of like take a little more time and like think a little harder about it, because in all of those songs there's elements that did work. It's just getting over like those 2 or 3 parts or whatever. Like maybe all the verses are awesome, but the chorus is just like we can't get anything to sound good over it. Or like the chorus is really good, but the rest of the song is just like there's just not much to it. But that's a little more rare, because like if you have a good chorus, then like you're a lot more motivated, I feel like, to like get
exactly
the rest of it going, because it's a lot easier to come up with like a verse than it is, I think, like an impactful chorus. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
makes sense. So how did the track list for the album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be a closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
So this one was a little odd because I feel like it could have gone so many different ways. And when you're sitting and listening, like the way it ends, I feel like it had a very clear, like high-low resolution sort of deal that went along with it. Like I felt like the place I feel safest in the way it ends, they had very natural track orientations. And when I, proposed what I thought the idea would be, maybe we changed like 1 or 2 things, but for the most part, everyone was like, yeah, that makes sense. So, and then with I Let the Devil In, it's 5 songs. So it's like, it's a little easier to kind of figure it out. That has its challenges too. But with Death We Seek, I feel like a lot of the songs are really dynamic, and there's songs that like there's that kind of flow wasn't necessarily easy to pick out to begin with, and coming up with what was going to be the closer, I think was a little more interesting too, where it's like Remember Me could have been the closer of the album, right? Like that would have been a solid closer, but there's kind of the whole thing of like, if you want a song to be a single, you don't necessarily want to put it at the end and like spoil the end of the album for everybody. And so I'm assuming the record will probably be out by the time that this gets aired, right?
Close to,
so I can talk about it.
Yeah,
close to. Okay, so when it came to the song "Guide Us Home," which in my opinion, is one of my favorite songs that we've done. Probably one of my favorites since Split, which is one of my favorites from The Way It Ends. But that song is like a little more like personal, I would say, and just a little bit more like if you were going to compare Remember Me versus Guide Us Home, I think that they're on an equal plane of like the quality, but Remember Me is a little bit more like single-y, I would say. So to put it at the end and then like spoil the end of the album for people felt a little unfair. So Guide Us Home ended up being the closer, which I think is still a pretty solid one at that, where like it has that kind of crescendo at the end, and it's an impactful song in its own right. But and so it's nice, like it stands alone as a closer as opposed to like Remember Me would.
Absolutely. And I think that at the end of the day it was a good call. Like even if Remember Me like what wasn't going to be a single, it has that like single-esque feeling where like that's not how I want an album to close, like I want it to close with like something that feels like a deep cut. So
yeah, and that's the thing, like Guide Us Home, if you're gonna say like I would definitely call it Guide Us Home, like it has more of that deep cut spirit, and so it's okay, like that it won't be like this big single kind of thing, but like historically the closers of our records end up being like some of the more popular songs. So hopefully it's got that closer buff and people hear it a little more, so we'll see.
Absolutely.
So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
So we're in the famous COVID times. We're just doing the thing, living our lives. COVID wasn't terrible for us necessarily, or at least not for me. Like we were, for the most part, like I was working during the time. Like I had a job that I was doing like when I was home in between tours, and that was still open, so I was just doing that, working at like a brewery, just serving people beers and burritos and all that stuff. But so that was cool. I mean, obviously like masks and all that, and like you're sanitizing things all the time, but kept kept the brain busy, and you're still isolated in a sense. Like, you're not really hanging out with people. You're not doing anything without a mask on for the most part. And like, there wasn't that necessarily didn't bother me. I'm kind of a shut in anyway. I know it's kind of like a cliche sort of thing to say for a lot of people that talk about the COVIDness, but yeah. So that was all fine for the most part. It was definitely a bummer not to get to like tour or like do anything much with our record. We didn't even get to make music videos really, because it was just like, yeah, it was so bad. Like, we had a member that has, like pretty immunocompromised family and all that stuff. And to get them out of the house to do like a rehearsal or like a music video, it's like, no, it's ridiculous. Like, like family comes first over everything. So it's like, but that didn't really seem to affect things all that much, like, that record came out in COVID, and it was like, there was talk about trying to push it back and all that. And we are just like, no, we're not going to do that. Whatever. And it came out, and it seemed to help a lot of people, and it helped us kind of get through that time as well. So that was nice. And it was kind of just, as far as a headspace goes, we're feeling pretty good, but we're also feeling creative, not as creative as like other people, I feel like, because there was people just putting out full on albums, doing multiple EPs and like all this crazy stuff during that time, and a lot of people really capitalized on it in this crazy way. So there was a little bit of that, like, I don't know, like inadequate feeling, like we could have done more, and like we could have been better, and could have done this and could have done that. But like, I guess that kind of just fed into the record a little bit, where it's like, you're just putting a little more into it, because you realize that everybody is going to be trying to capitalize on this time of just not touring and like doing this and that. So like, you really had to, like, whether you were like grinding super hard during that time or not, like you had to bring it when you did come back into the world. So there was that little bit of like expectation mentally to like bring out something that was going to be solid.
Makes sense. So how do you recommend your fans to listen to this album for the first time? Should they do it in the car with friends, in the dark with headphones on? Is it a workout album, party album? What do you personally recommend?
I think it hits in headphones pretty good. In the car, it's pretty solid as well. I would recommend like car headphones, or not car headphones, but like in the car, or like no, I don't drive with headphones, but like in the car or like in headphones. People do tend to like to work out to currents, I guess. That seems to be like a thing. Yeah. So, that's probably a good bet, it shouldn't disappoint.
Absolutely.
Hell yeah. So this one should be super, super quick off the top of your head. I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words. No more, no less.
Oh, that's not easy. That's so hard.
Yeah.
Never said it was. Just said I had to be fast.
Downright sick.
Perfect.
We'll take it. Hell yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So in that same train of thought, is there a certain feeling or emotion you want listeners to have while going through the album?
Nah, whatever you're feeling, just do it, Absolutely. Don't be worried about it. Just listen to it. If you like it, it's great. If you don't, whatever. If it makes you feel this or that, it's all part of the plan.
Hell yeah.
Perfect. All right. So can you talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments from the creation of this album, positive or negative?
Positive. So we recorded the vocals ourselves for the first time. We didn't bring anybody else in to like do that process for us. Chris, our guitar player, composer, all that good stuff, he is a very accomplished producer and engineer. He works out of his own studio in Beacon, New York, under Chris Wiseman Recordings, and he, typically for records, like he will engineer the guitars, anything from I Let the Devil In on. He self-records all the guitars. and he wanted to take a stab at doing the vocals. And usually I feel a little more comfortable having like a, like a vocal producer or somebody like the just the producer of the album being there. Like for example, I Let the Devil In, Ryan LaTrue recorded our vocals. We spent like a week doing it like a studio with him. He was the one like physically engineering and like recording. For The Way It Ends, we had Ricky Armelino engineering and kind of like giving some like help and tips and input here and there for stuff. And he was awesome. And Ryan sat in on that process and basically oversaw it. And like, if he heard something weird, we'd go back and they would kind of like, they kind of co-pro'd it in a way. And that was pretty awesome. But then, for The Death We Seek, Chris was like, I want to take a stab at it. And, I'd reached out to a few other people, and after thinking about it a little bit, I was like, you know what, this would be good for me and Chris, get in there, just have some bonding, just get it going, and just, spend a week just screaming. And we did. So I went to his place in Beacon where we, did all of the pre-production for the record. And we just recorded at his studio. And it was, I think it was like we did like 5 days straight, and then took a couple of days off, and then did like another 3 days or whatever. But we blasted through it, and it was super smooth. And I was just surprised. I was like, wow, this was pretty great,
Yeah. Hell yeah.
Did you feel more comfortable and confident basically just doing it with a friend rather than a new person?
Yeah, so there was that level of like comfortability, and that like like I feel like the goal when you're going in to do something like that is to feel comfortable, right? Like you don't want to be like, some like being out of your comfort zone is a natural thing, but like to mitigate that as much as you can, to have like a familiar thing or like somebody that's there and just being like your advocate and your like friend that's like, doing great, or like, oh, we could do this better, like somebody that's like motivating you and like doing all that stuff. There's a lot that you look for, but like in this particular process, it was just like there was that familiarity and comfortability where Chris felt confident in my ability to get in and do it. And there was, that usually like you're looking to somebody to be like, oh, was that good? Mm-hmm. But for the most part, it was like I was my own critic, where like he would tell me if something was weird or off, especially with like singing. But like if there was like screaming or like anything, like layers, any of that stuff, mm-hmm. I was really the one that was going like, oh, we got to do it again, and just drilling it. Mm-hmm. But it was cool. So there was a level of like my thoughts on that versus like him being like, nah, dude, like you got it. What are you talking about? But like, or, it would flip and I'd be like, what? I think I got it. And be like, nah, dude, like, you gotta do it again. But yeah, exactly.
Hell yeah. All right.
That was a fun balance, but it was great.
Awesome. Sure. So for this question, I want you to picture you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Oh my God. I've been doing the beef jerky lately, like teriyaki jerky. Mm-hmm. Before that, I was vegan for a while. I was just getting complete cookies all the time. Usually wouldn't get them at the gas station because you get the gas station premium, So like I would just, when we go to Walmart, I'd buy like the whole box of them and just do that. But yeah, mostly it's like protein bars or like some sort of energy drink, but we're talking snacks. Usually, some kind of like protein bar, like Cliff Bar, Quest, like any of that stuff, I guess. Usually it's not like chips or anything. It just doesn't agree with me. It just makes me feel terrible. So,
Fair
enough.
Yeah. All right. So on the topic of food, if the band was a dish, what dish would the band be and why?
It would be like the sickest like cheeseburger you could possibly get. Just like nice combo of different beefs, like top of the line cheese, maybe some bacon or like some onion straws, but not too many. Can't have too many because they just sometimes they're like kind of gross and like I don't know. But they'd be really good ones. So like just a couple of them, like a pretzel bun or like a brioche bun maybe, and then just like some really good fries and like some dipping sauce on the side. definitely.
Oh, yeah.
Like something to just put them in, like whether it's like a spicy mayo or like ranch or honey mustard or something.
Hmm.
Hell
Yeah.
I
yeah.
have to ask, what cut fries? Are we talking like shoestring, curly, steak?
Absolutely not. We're talking I've seen them in a kitchen before, and I'm gonna sound like such an idiot, but like they have like the little grids that you use
Oh,
to just like
waffle fries.
nah, not even the waffle fries. It's um just like a little thing of just like it's like a blade, but it's like a little grid of just like squares, and then you take the whole potato and you just
You push
push it through. Yeah, those guys, and then you take those, fry them in like some fresh oil,
Mhm.
and even if the oil's a little old and they're kind of greasy, that's fine too. It just depends.
All right. So for the last couple questions, we're going to shift completely away from music and go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh my god, it's probably the cheeseburger, or I eat a lot of fried chicken and just like chicken things.
Hmm.
So I don't know, maybe like a Nashville hot chicken.
Okay. And a
Damn.
drink with that?
Oh, a drink? I don't know. I gotta say like Diet Pepsi or Diet Coke or something. It's not the best thing ever, but it's just familiar,
Fair enough.
Exactly. Comforting.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're like, wow, great. Sick.
Right. So if you could live in one fictional world for a week, where would you live?
Oh man. That's tough. I gotta say probably Star Wars. Probably the Star Wars universe, Seems like it's got everything you want, everything you need.
Hmm.
A lot of fun. You can fly around in like a hover car. You can I don't know, just go to like the cantina and just vibe out.
For sure.
Yeah, it just seems like they got it all,
Hell yeah.
Would you be like a Sith or a Jedi, like a little floater? Who are you?
Oh man, yeah, the choose your own adventure. I played a lot of Knights of the Old Republic, and like you could like kind of like bounce back and forth, be like, I want to be a Jedi, and
Yeah.
like you do something bad, and you're like, oh my god, I'm gonna be a Sith now. Yeah, you start getting like pale in your eye, like it starts getting like dark around your eyes and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So you're like, I don't know. Yeah, I would fluctuate, depending on the era,
Okay. Damn.
So I have on of asking the last question, and every single person that we've spoken to have said that it is the most important question. What's your favorite color?
Blue is the easy answer. Everything is blue. Always, nice classic standby. But purple's pretty tight too.
I agree.
Hell yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So as I said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you would like to plug?
Way it ends, May 5th. Or the way it ends. Oh my god.
I was like, wait a minute.
Dude,
Bro's plugging the last
Who's
record.
mans? Who's
my
mans,
God.
bro? The Death We Seek, May 5th. We've been talking about the way it ends so much.
By accident.
Yeah, by accident. We have a headlining tour coming up pretty soon. Our first headline tour. We got like Moss the Flames, Invent Animate for some of it, Unity, Texas for some of it, and Foreign Hands. So yeah, get your tickets. Some of it's sold out, some of it's not. VIP, you can get some of them, some you can't. So figure it out. See what you can do, and we'll see you there.
Hell yeah! All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Brian from Currents, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.